It's deja vu all over again. There's another strike at Canada Post. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
All the news you need to know.
This is Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
There they go again. For the second time in less than a year, Canada Post workers are on strike. The nationwide work stoppage by the Canadian Union of Postal Workers was announced yesterday evening, just hours after the cabinet minister responsible for Canada Post, Joel Lightbound, announced that the financially desperate postal service could take drastic action to shore up its finances, including ending all home delivery of the mail. At a news conference in Ottawa, Mr. Lightbound said taxpayers just can't keep bailing out Canada Post.
Canada Post is effectively insolvent. It provides an essential service to Canadians, and in particular to rural, remote, and Indigenous communities, and Canadians are rightfully attached to it and want it saved. However, repeated bailouts from the federal government are not the solution.
The union, CUPW, is calling the government's actions an attack on the Postal Service. It says the actions being taken by Ottawa are drastic and that they'll negatively affect the public. Canada Post management, meantime, thanked the federal government, saying the measures will put the Postal Service on a more sustainable path. As for what comes next, Minister Lightbound said the government is accepting all the recommendations made by a mediator, William Kaplan. He examined Canada Post operations after hearing input from both sides.
I'm instructing Canada Post to introduce flexibilities in their delivery standards. The average households receive just 2 letters per week, yet operations are still designed for much higher volumes. Adjusting delivery standards will allow non-urgent mail to travel by ground instead of air and will save more than $20 million a year to the corporation. Next, the government is removing the moratorium on the conversion to community mailboxes. 3/4 of Canadians already receive mail through community, apartment, or rural mailboxes, while 1/4 still receive door-to-door delivery. It's an expensive service, and by way of example, delivering mail to an individual address costs the corporation $279 a year, whereas delivering mail to a community mailbox costs $157 a year.
4 million households still get home delivery of the mail. Converting all of them to community mailboxes could save Canada Post $400 million a year. The government will also let Canada Post close many rural post offices. There's been a moratorium on those closures in place since 1994. The government claims many of those post offices used to be in rural areas, but they're not rural anymore, they're suburban. Speaking a few days ago ahead of this news, the Labor Minister, Patty Hajdu, said nobody, including the Postal Workers Union, should be surprised that serious change is needed at Canada Post.
To look at some of the structural issues with Canada Post from the labor perspective, from the organization's perspective, and actually from the government perspective. So I think, all parties had access to that report, and I can't speak to what the union knew or didn't know, but that report was pretty comprehensive in terms of recommendations for everybody.
Is the union open enough? Is the union open to change, in your opinion?
That's really a conversation for them to have internally with their corporation, and I think it's an important conversation.
Leading New Democrats are very upset about the changes announced at Canada Post. In a post on social media, the party's interim leader, Don Davies, called home mail delivery a nation-building project, while NDP leadership candidate Avi Lewis said on social media, quote, "Public services aren't bailouts, they're infrastructure." And, quote, "Rural mail and home delivery are services we depend on, not corporate handouts." On Parliament Hill, Alexandre Boulris, an NDP MP from Quebec, said Prime Minister Carney is just like Stephen Harper.
I think the Carney government wants to realize the dream of Stephen Harper with community boxes everywhere and cuts for rural population. And in the north, and in the city, it's going to be a mess.
This strike creates a political problem for the Liberals. The government's favorite tool to end strikes has become Section 107 of the Canadian Labour Code, ending a strike or lockout in the name of industrial peace. No vote is needed for the House of Commons to do that. It did that last time with Canada Post. and with the rail workers and the port workers and mechanics at WestJet. And most recently, it tried to do that to end a strike by cabin crew workers at Air Canada. But those workers defied that order. The president of the Canadian Labour Congress, Bieber Rusk, predicted the government would never use that tool again.
The reality is that now that it's been challenged once by workers refusing to obey, I cannot imagine that it's not going to get challenged again. And so government will have to find a different approach to navigating this. Employers have to find a different approach to relying on government intervention, and they need to actually get serious when they come to the bargaining table.
The government could try and pass back to work legislation, but it's a minority government, and it's unclear how much support the Liberals would get from the other political parties. Bieber Rusk says the workers at Canada Post deserve a fair deal, and the Canada Post workers are fighting for all workers.
They deserve to have a fair wage. They deserve to have job security. And I would remind us that Canada Post has a very important service to Canadians. When you live in northern or rural areas, you are reliant on the post office. CUPW, Canada Post Union, Workers Union, has been for a long time advocating for an expansion of postal services that they could perform in order to provide value add. These are not things that Canada Post Corporation has been keen to implement. Things like postal banking, things like senior check-ins, things like EV charging stations at postal outlets. There's a multitude of things that could be done if Canada Post and, quite frankly, our federal government were keen to figure out a solution to the issue of Canada Post.
Canada Post workers last went on strike November 15th of last year, just before the Christmas holidays. The strike lasted for 32 days. It only ended December 17th after the Labour Minister, Steve McKinnon at the time, finally intervened and ordered the workers back to their jobs. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
With our expert in communications, crisis communications, political communications, branding, and leadership, Barry McLoughlin is the president of TLC, Transformational Leadership Consultants. Barry lectures at the Telfer School of Management at the University of Ottawa and at the MBA program at the Shannon School of Business at Cape Breton University. You can read Barry on a Substack. You can listen to his podcast, and he's with us every Friday. How are you today?
Great, Rob. Great, Rob. How are you?
Well, the big story is Canada Post on strike again. Workers at Canada Post are on strike at a time, I would say, when there's great anxiety about the economy. We see job losses mounting, layoffs in the news all the time, unemployment on the rise. These are good jobs. And I think a lot of Canadians will think these workers should be happy to have them. So how can the union gain sympathy for Canada Post workers?
Yeah, that's a tough one, actually, because it is true. I heard on your broadcast there, that really fewer and fewer Canadians have the fortune, including, we're very lucky. We actually have home service, direct home service. 3/4 of Canadians don't. So this has been going on, by the way, as you well know, for 3 or 4 decades. The threat to do it, when they brought in the community mailboxes, all that went through, a lot of controversy about that. I think they waited until, wait a second, we're getting 1 or 2 pieces of mail a week, and they're usually flyers for something. It does hurt small business, interestingly enough, because they actually kind of rely on that still for that direct, especially they can target communities with it. It's going to hurt them. I do think that it's something that inevitably had to come. Hundreds of millions of dollars, I don't know what the amount is this year, but of taxpayer money trying to prop it up and to offset it. The world has shifted now. Almost all of this is by email and other means. The package delivery is excellent, but not the local mail anymore. I was on the phone, by the way, today to a federal government agency applying for something, and they said, we'll just mail you that form. I said, there's a strike on. Oh, okay, never mind. And then later on the call, he says, well, actually, you can mail that in. I said, again, I told you they're on strike. So it's like
right.
The federal government seems to be a little bit out of sync with what's going on.
Yeah. This company, Barry, is insolvent. Okay?
Yeah.
This company is insolvent. These workers are asking for raises. They want better benefits. Yeah. They don't want any layoffs. I understand this is a union defending its workers, but let's think a little bit about the economic backdrop here. 8,000 workers at the Bay lose their jobs.
Yeah.
They're out of work because the Bay is out of business. You and I lived through the Nortel days in Ottawa.
Oh, yeah.
Some of those people didn't just lose jobs, they lost pensions. Sears goes out of business. People don't just lose their jobs, they lose their pensions as well.
That's right.
And yet, Canada
and
Post workers are there at a company that has to be bailed out by taxpayers. A lot of people are going to think these people are out to lunch, and I'm pretty much on their side.
Well, Canada Post gave them, in the end, a very, very generous offer, unheard of on all fronts, and they basically turned it down. They were legislated back, and now we're to this stage. So I don't think there's a real strong, the poor Cup W workers. There's a very famous former Cup W president who infamously said, when asked by the media, what about all this disruption to the public? And he said, well, if the public doesn't like it, they can go to hell. So even when he died, it was on his, basically on his media tombstone. So no, I mean, there has always been a certain kind of, attitude towards this. Mind you, Canadians can surprise you sometimes. They can feel sorry for people that, they're just working snips, their average income, and look what the government's doing, So I don't say it's a slam dunk that everybody's going to turn against them. I do worry. You had mentioned to me previously that, what if people slip and fall, especially elderly people trying to get to their mailbox? Yeah, these are real world things. There's not going to be a mailbox center on every corner of a street in the suburbs and so on. You might often have to get in your car and drive to it. A lot of people aren't even driving anymore at certain stages. So there is a lot of disruption attached even to the remaining 1/4 people who will no longer have home delivery. So this is not a win-win for governments, but I think it was a necessary decision to take.
Yeah, I think Canada Post, just from and you're an expert in this, I mean, from a corporate image point of view, is going to have to be ready. I think inevitably there will be a news story when these community mailboxes are installed and people lose their home delivery. There will be news stories. Oh, this poor elderly woman slipped on the icy sidewalk. She didn't used to have to venture out to her community mailbox, but now she's in the hospital with a broken hip. I mean, they better game plan for something like that. I would caution them on that.
You're absolutely right. And when the community mailboxes came in, I remember there was story after story of people, coming to the mailbox and somebody had broken into it and so on. So there's always stories around this. And I think Canada Post has to be very strategic in how they message on this, and don't take for granted that people are all going to go, oh, yeah, great. No, they won't. And I think that this is going to be an ongoing controversy.
All right. When we come back, we'll talk about Starbucks. When we come back with Barry McLoughlin, I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
There is no question Rob won't get answered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues
on News Radio.
We're back with Barry McLoughlin from TLC, Transformational Leadership Consultants. So many years ago, I was working at a radio station in downtown Ottawa, and right next door there was a Starbucks, and I would hop in there from time to time because it was closer than the nearest Tim Hortons. And who would I bump into but the one and only Barry McLoughlin, usually reading a newspaper or scrolling through his phone. You know the exact location I'm talking about, right there in the Byward Market.
Absolutely.
Where Stony Mondays used to be. But look, Starbucks is struggling. I can understand why in this economic environment. Who can afford, $6 latte at Starbucks? Stock has done nothing for 5 years. It's gone nowhere. Now it's announced it's going to close hundreds and hundreds of outlets, and it's going to lay off 1,000 employees. What do you think is wrong with Starbucks?
I think very bad senior leadership of that company. Do you realize that there are 39,000 stores of Starbucks around the world? They have flooded marketplaces with multiple Starbucks outlets, and it was supposed to be a premium brand. They tried to become Tim Hortons at the $6 latte price. So something went horribly wrong. It no longer became special. A lot of drive-throughs. Never really invested in any food that you'd want to eat. I found it, you almost felt ripped off being in there. There were some beautiful ones, like the one next door to that radio station was excellent. But there were many that weren't and that aren't. So I think that they have to realize what the culture has shifted. McDonald's went big on coffee. The McCafes, $1 coffee, still selling that.
Yeah.
Timmy's the same thing. And they're comfortable places. You go there, you want to hang out. I can go in. I know several that you go into, and people are basically, this is where they go every week at a certain time with their friends to have a coffee. And then there are also the other kind of the mini chains, the ones that maybe there are a dozen or so in a city like Bridgehead here in Ottawa, and people like going to Bridgehead. They sort of feel a relationship to it. And so that culture has shifted also. So I think people are looking for value. They don't see the value anymore. And finally, I think that Starbucks, they were so big that they began to unionize. The unions moved in on them to unionize. We see that in quite a number of American cities where the unions have voted in that store. The workers have voted to join the union. So these really shift the ground very much. So in the end, I think that they forgot what their brand was. You don't feel special in there. And it's a real touch and go place. You order an event, you click on that and you go, you grab it, go. So the culture changed, and it certainly isn't any place where, like the Cafe Perk in Friends, it's not that kind of place anymore.
You mentioned it was always supposed to be a premium brand. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if you want to be seen as a premium brand, do you sell budget items, or does that dilute your brand? What do you think?
Really good question. You saw the second cup. It was Canada's version of that, and they're pretty well gone. Very few left. That didn't work out. Again, didn't any longer feel premium. You are right. If you go cheap in a premium place, that's misfiring. Where's the value? It's not cheap versus expensive. I think it's really, what value? Do you feel there's a value in it? Is it a place you want to go? Do they treat you well? Is there more than just coffee? Like a lot of people said to me at the time at Starbucks, I don't even like the coffee, but I like going there. Well, that's the power of marketing. You can charge, it's called brand equity. You can charge $6 or $5 for a coffee that really, basically is competitively $1, but there's a $4 premium that the marketing perception, the brand perception of Starbucks was able to get. That world has changed. So you notice their big growth is in China. Their big growth is in those countries where that's the brand that says America. That's the brand that they want to be part of. So that world is starting to change possibly too.
Really interesting stuff this week, Barry. Enjoy the first weekend of fall. Maybe get yourself up to the Gatineau Hills. It's really starting to look spectacular up there. Talk to you soon.
It'll be beautiful. Take care.
Bye-bye. Barry McLoughlin from TLC, Transformational Leadership Consultants. Tom Korski from Blacklock's After the News on News Radio.
You have questions.
Now you know with Rob Snow has the answers.
On News Radio.
Well, he's been minding Ottawa's business all week long. Tom Korski's with us every week, the managing editor of Blacklock's Reporter. Welcome back.
Thank you, Rob.
The Canada Post story is the biggest story in the country. How bad is it at Canada Post?
Well, their losses are significant. Cabinet now says they're looking at $1.5 billion pre-tax loss this year. That would be on top of about $840 million pre-tax loss last year. It's been several years since they had a net profit. My 2 cents, Rob, I think the biggest problem is Cabinet has been completely indifferent on getting on top of the systemic issues that both management and labor have talked about at the post office for many, many years. Even today, Stephen Harper, he was criticized for this. He commissioned research on privatization. They looked at privatization in Germany, of the German post office 25 years ago. They looked at services offered by the Italian post office in terms of household finance, insurance, or even reviving the old postal banks. They looked at many solutions. This cabinet has done nothing for 10 years. Nothing changed except the losses got worse. And what did the cabinet do but came around, as really, they said, we're going to have a hanging, and the union said, well, we're not interested in providing the rope. There's been no leadership from Cabinet on dealing with these, what are very ordinary and common issues in the postal business right around the world. This is a story of failure, Rob.
It really is a repudiation of the approach of Justin Trudeau during his time as prime minister. This was an election issue that he rode. I won't say it was the only issue, but it was one of the issues in the 2015 election campaign that brought Mr. Trudeau to power. We will save home delivery. We won't touch home delivery. If you get it now, you'll always get it. And that's one of the reasons why this corporation is where it is. Now, given the pushback that we have seen in labor against these Section 107 orders of the Labor Code that you and I have talked about before, the government's preferred method of ending strikes, the Air Canada flight attendants just ignored it. Labor leaders have told me the government's never going to use that again. Those days are over. I wonder what options the government really has here. What do you think?
Well, there's the old club that's always the tried and true club, which is back to work legislation, what they've tried to avoid, because you have to stand up in the House of Commons and vote for it in broad daylight. That's why Cabinet seized on these Section 107 orders. As you mentioned, they used it, 7 times in a year. There's serious questions by serious litigators as to whether it's even constitutional. I don't think it is. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm pretty sure that's unconstitutional. But Cabinet liked it because you could do it with a memo. Back to work legislation is very, very messy, and you may not have the votes. Mm-hmm. This is the problem. The bill has to pass the House and Senate, and the last time they did that against the postal workers, I can tell you, it was a very unpleasant debate, and it got pretty hot. And here you have now, you're going to have to go to Liberal-appointed senators, in particular, to pass your bill. Senators like Hassan Youssef, who used to be the national president of the Canadian Labour Congress. I wonder what he's going to say about your back to work bill.
How would he vote on back to work legislation?
Exactly.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay, let's move along. Another big story today was the report issued yesterday from the interim parliamentary budget officer, Jason Jacques. What does that report say about Canada's fiscal position?
He says it's out of control. He used the word unsustainable, and he had to actually explain that to members of the Commons Government Operations Committee, in particular, members of the Government Caucus. And he said, when we use the word unsustainable, he said, you should know that's a really bad word when an accountant says unsustainable. He says it means you don't have a choice anymore. You either have to start hiking taxes or cutting services because you are near the breaking point. Rob, his figures show Cabinet missed its deficit target last year by over 30%, and they missed this year's deficit target by 62% for no apparent reason. You remember last Christmas they were giving you a tax cut on bonbons and Christmas trees, saying this is your perk. And here now you have really the accountant for the Government of Canada walking in and saying you're dead. He actually said, if you keep up with this, you are done. His words. It was very
well, let's listen to his words. Let's listen. This is Jason Jacques, interim parliamentary budget officer.
It should be very alarming, right? These are, I don't know, I think I used the words in French, and which the translators probably got really well, like stupefying, shocking, right? This is not, like, it's not a funny fiscal outlook. It's a really serious fiscal outlook. And we don't lightly use the word unsustainable, right? Unsustainable means you don't have the option of saying, maybe I'll wait a couple of years, I'll see how things go. It means if you don't change, this is done, right? So it's very serious. And I think, as anyone who's managed a household budget knows, if you sit down at the end of the month and you don't have enough money to pay your bills, and it happens month after month after month, you know that something's going to break.
Wow. He's the numbers guy. They don't usually speak in such stark terms, Tom.
No, that's a man who's also been 17 years in the budget office and is on his way out the door. That's how you talk when you don't have to worry about a promotion. Fastest growing line item in the budget, Rob, $55 billion this year. That's debt servicing costs. Going to $71 billion by 2028. They call it $82 billion by the end of the decade. $55 billion this year is more than the feds will spend on Medicare or national defense, not even close. Fastest growing line item. And for that, you get exactly nothing because that money was spent 10 years ago. You're dead.
When we come back, the opposition is digging into what's been going on with the BC Ferries deal. Remember, a federal government bank, Canada Infrastructure Bank, is putting up $1 billion loan so that new ferries can be built for BC Ferries, but not in Canada. No. In China. When we come back with Tom Korski from Blacklock's reporter.
No question goes unasked or unanswered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow returns on News Radio.
We're back with Tom Korski. He is the managing editor of Blacklock's reporter, with us every Friday. BC Ferries needs new ferries, and the contract was awarded to a Chinese shipyard, multi-billion-dollar contract. And it's going ahead with a $1 billion low-interest loan from the Canada Infrastructure Bank, which ties it to the federal government. But what was happening behind the scenes to try and contain the PR fallout from a China shipyard deal, given the country was all wrapped up in Canadian nationalism and elbows up at the time, Tom?
You just nailed it. It was public relations. They were wetting their pants over the optics of this. We see this in internal staff emails by cabinet aides. All they cared about was the optics. We have to limit the damage, they said, make the best of the worst. This makes us look bad. Can't we say we're disappointed? Can't we blame British Columbia somehow? Absolutely cynical and frankly infuriating staff emails that were flying around after it became obvious that Cabinet knew and did nothing on the financing, using taxpayers' money, of these Chinese shipyard jobs in a shipyard that is co-managed by the People's Liberation Army so that you could take away jobs from Canadian shipyard workers, hit the taxpayers with the bill. There was no sense, and we've seen this more than once, Rob. People would be astonished. I say that this is on the level. You hear cabinet aides of a G7 country, and you think, well, these must be very wise old graybeards who know the way around Ottawa, and they're not. These are typical people in their mid-20s. They've never done anything in their life. They typically have political credentials. They've never run a food truck. And this is who is going to manage our shipyard procurement program. It's shocking, Rob. It's actually infuriating.
Well, right from the staff and the PMO, quote, "My immediate instinct is that we can move forward with this announcement as a paper release, news release, and refuse to wear any of the procurement choices. This is disappointing to see from BC Ferries, but this was their decision entirely, okay? We're going to blame the BC guys, okay? They made this decision, even though it comes with $1 billion attached in federal taxpayer financing, low-interest loan. Let's put it on the BC guys."
Absolutely. Yeah. One cabinet aide says to then Transport Minister Freeland, let's get the message out. Let's go on our disappointment. That means put on your sad face, read the teleprompter, talk about how sad you are that British Columbia did this. And, oh, by the way, state publicly, I quote their staff email, "We had nothing to do with this," end of quote, although, of course, they did have everything to do with it. They knew about the financing, and they didn't stop it. And they're going out talking about Buy Canadian because this was the moment, apparently, of existential threat for Canadian workers.
Okay, let's talk about a few other things very quickly here. There's news on the Freedom Convoy. You've done some digging. How much have lawyers with the Department of Justice billed taxpayers for civil litigation targeting the Freedom Convoy?
Billable hours over 21 million. That, you are absolutely right, does not include the prosecution of some 230 protesters, typically on mischief charges. Billable hours alone, civil litigation lawyers for the Department of Justice, $21,031,000.
Wow. As you point out, does not account for the Crown prosecutions of all those people who were charged with mischief. Some of the proceedings, of course, now well into their third year. All right, 21 million. Wow, it's only money. But this is the kind of money that the government spends. How much are they spending, for example, at the Department of Industry to have a 2-day meeting?
Well, that was $350,000. They had a barbecue.
Yeah.
Really, let's call
Right.
it was a corporate welfare barbecue. They had 300 green tech executives come into Ottawa, stay at the Westin Hotel for a 2-day conference. They called it a leadership summit. It wasn't a corporate welfare summit. They called it a leadership summit, and they gave out awards. Every one of these guys was looking for a grant. Most of them got them. By the way, the agency, the granting agency, you recall, was subsequently disbanded in a single day when auditors counted 186 conflicts of interest at the board of directors. It was a scam.
Well, it was at the Westin. I mean, it was a fancy barbecue. An old broadcasting friend of mine said,
have that at an airport hotel.
"Stay at the Ottawa Westin. They don't put a Bible in the bedside table. Moses himself comes out and reads the 10 Commandments to you."
Do they have pillow chocolates there? I've never stayed.
$329,000
It's
for a
only
2-day
money, Rob.
meeting. Yeah. Bye-bye, Tom. Good to hear from you. Thank you.
Rob.
Tom Korski, the managing editor at Blacklock's Reporter, minding Ottawa's business. Aren't you glad someone is? This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.
Critical thinking is not dead.
Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Returns on News Radio.
And if you're ever looking for a podcast of our show, Now You Know with Rob Snow, there's a great new mobile app. It'll help you hear our show when you want to. Listen live, listen to the podcast. It's called the Seeker app. Seeker spelled Seekr, and it has all kinds of exclusive audio that you won't hear anywhere else. News, music, and sports, and you can download Seeker for iOS or Android. That's Seeker spelled Seekr. And Now You Know with Rob Snow is on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Well, Jays fans, don't you think the Jays needed that one last night? Coming down the stretch and in a slump that has seen their lead atop the American League East vanish, the Toronto Blue Jays met the Boston Red Sox again last night. Final game of their 3-game series. Very tight game. Scoreless, in fact. And you had to wonder if the Jays offense was going to squander another solid performance from the pitching staff. But then came the 6th inning, and the Jays loaded the bases with nobody out. The Red Sox made a pitching change, and Dalton Varsho stepped into the batter's box.
A left-hander, and he's hit it high and deep to right. Grand slam, Dalton Varsho. The Dalton Varsho home run.
Well, obviously, he got to that high fastball. That's been a pitch that's plagued him in the past, but not tonight. He jumps on top of it and hits it high and deep into the bullpen in right. A grand slam home run and the biggest hit the Blue Jays have had in a week.
So that put the Blue Jays up 4-0, and in the same inning, George Springer went yard, hit a 2-run home run of his own, and the Jays would go on to win by a final of 6-1. So that allowed the Jays to keep pace with the Yankees, who again downed the last place Chicago White Sox 5-3. The White Sox led that game 3-0 at one point. With the win, the Jays' magic number to win the American League East is down to 3. The Jays hold the tiebreaker over the Yankees, so whichever team wins the division gets a bye into the AL Divisional Series and home field advantage. The Jays' final 3 games of the regular season starts tonight against the Tampa Bay Rays. Yankees' final 3 games are at Yankee Stadium against the Baltimore Orioles. Now, tonight's Jays game is not on Sportsnet. It is exclusive to subscribers of Apple TV Plus, but it is on the Blue Jays radio network. So you can listen at 95.7 News Radio in Halifax, 570 News Radio in Kitchener, and on Sportsnet 960 The Fan. One of the greatest events in professional golf is underway today, the Ryder Cup. Team Europe versus Team USA. Trump is there, as a matter of fact. It's being played at Bethpage Black, which is in Farmingdale, New York, on Long Island. The defending Ryder Cup champion, Team Europe, the morning session, 4 matches, alternate shot foursomes. The afternoon matches, 4 ball, better ball. Each player plays their own ball. Lowest score from each team counts. Matches tomorrow as well, and then it all wraps up on Sunday with 12 singles matches. The U.S. needs 14.5 points to win the Ryder Cup. Europe needs 14 points to retain it. It'll be a great weekend of golf. Football, week 4 got underway last night in the National Football League. Seahawks edging the Cardinals 23-20. Notable matches for your Sunday football viewing pleasure. Ravens and Chiefs, Packers and Cowboys, Eagles and Bucks. In the CFL, Calgary and Montreal tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern. The late game has Toronto and BC. Tomorrow, Ticats and Bombers. That's the afternoon game, and the evening game is the Rough Riders and Elks. Talkback Friday, free-for-all Talkback coming up right after the news on News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talkback. It's 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. Today, it's the Friday free-for-all. And that's our favorite day of the week around here. We don't come up with the topics on Fridays. We have some topics, but we'd rather leave that job up to you. So what's on your mind? What do you want to talk about? If you want to talk about something that's been in the news, there's always news. Certainly lots of news this week, for sure. If you want to talk about something that you think should be in the news, you feel free to raise it here. Whatever it happens to be, serious, not so serious, we have a phone line for you. All of the phone lines are open right now at 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. And if you've never called before, just mention that, and we'll make your call a priority. 1-833-668-2577, every single phone line available right now. I mean, the biggest story in the country is Canada Post and the workers at Canada Post going on strike again. Don't you feel like we've been here before? Maybe because they were on strike less than a year ago, but here we go again. They're mad. They're mad at what the government announced yesterday. The Liberals announced that they're going to let Canada Post begin the process of ending home delivery of the mail. What do you think of that decision? What if you get the mail delivered right to your house now? What do you think of losing that and having to go to a community mailbox? Rural post offices will also be allowed to close. There's been a moratorium on that, apparently since 1994. So the workers are apoplectic about this, and the union announced yesterday evening full-blown nationwide strike of the Postal Service. The government said yesterday taxpayers just can't keep bailing out Canada Post, and that's what the government has been doing lately. I mean, you can consider it this way. The backdrop for some of this news is that the parliamentary budget officer has said the budget deficit for this year is going to be at least $65 billion. It could be more than that. He also said future budget deficits will be in the range of $60 billion year after year, as far as the eye can see. And here you have Canada Post, and it is effectively insolvent. These workers who are working for this company are working for a company that is broke. And the only thing that has been keeping the lights on at Canada Post lately is our money. Money from you and me. Now, it wasn't always this way, but this is how bad things are now. Canada Post used to be able to fund all of its operations from its own revenues. Selling people postage would cover all the costs to operate Canada Post in the run of a year. But it has not been that way for many, many years. So now, in order to fund its operations, it has to go cap in hand to the government and beg for government money, which is our money. And the government has given this company in excess of $1 billion so it can avoid going belly up. The government has been bailing out Canada Post. We have been bailing out Canada Post. And these workers, I mean, I don't know what fantasy land they're living in, but they do not seem to have clued in that the world has changed and we don't need 55,000 postal workers anymore, working bankers' hours. The country can't afford it. And yet there they are, demanding ever better benefits, higher wages, while working for an insolvent company. They work for Canada Post. They don't work for Google. They don't work for Saudi Aramco. They don't work for Apple, where the money just gushes in. They work for Canada Post. And as well, I would as well add, can we all consider the economic backdrop right now, the state of the economy, the state of the job market? There are too many good jobs to be found. There are layoffs in the news every day. Unemployment is on the rise. And these people are on strike? So I don't know what your opinion is. Mine is, and I hate to be blunt about it because I know it's going to hurt small business. These people can walk that picket line all winter long as far as I'm concerned. Maybe walking a picket line when it's minus 25 will knock some sense into them. Change has long been needed at this place. Most other companies that lose billions and billions and billions of dollars, you know what they do? They do downsizing. It should be no different at Canada Post. My opinion. I welcome yours. I know it's going to hurt small business. I know people's lives will be disrupted because there are people who still rely on the Postal Service for government benefits, checks, and the like. There will be people who won't be happy that they have to go to a community mailbox, that they might lose home delivery of the mail. But all the issues that were big issues during the last strike, none of them have been resolved. And now finally, at least this government is telling this corporation, go ahead and do what you think needs to be done. You have the government's permission. So, no more home delivery of the mail. Rural post offices will be closed. What do you think of these proposals from the government? They have been welcomed by the management at Canada Post. The union sent its workers out on strike. Nobody gets any mail. No mail for you. What do you think about these workers going on strike for the second time in less than a year? Last year, they ruined Christmas. Bunch of Grinches? Do you support them or not? I don't. What about you? 1-833-668-2577. Friday free for all. You can pick something else, too. Lots of other stuff to talk about. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Up first on the Friday Free for All Talkback today, Brad in Red Deer. Hello, Brad.
Hello, how are you doing?
Very good, Brad. What's on your mind today?
Well, I totally agree with you on the Canada Post point.
You're a wise man.
I've had a community mailbox for years, and I don't understand first why some people don't have a community mailbox. It seems like they're in the rich areas, and they like their door-to-door mail delivery. And as far as, getting the mail, there's, you said, three-quarters of the people, they're not just living, the old people live there as well. So slipping on the ground and falling, that's a day-to-day occurrence anyways. So, why should I have to suffer and pay my taxes and bail out this Canada Post when three-quarters of the people have to walk to the mailbox anyways?
Okay. What do you do? You live in a rural area, suburban area, kind of an urban area? What would you say?
No, I don't. But I know people that do, and they have their community mailbox out on the highway, place to pull over and get it.
Sure.
It's not a big deal. It's just like anyone else in the city.
Yeah.
So I just don't. I don't agree with the two-tier standard.
Okay. What do you think about? I'm sure on your travels you see, rural post offices. I've got two of them within a 30-minute drive of my place. I've been to the only time I was ever to the post office was when I went to get the key for my community mailbox. That was the only time I was ever at the post office.
Yeah, it's so true. You can get a stamp at any drugstore or whatever you need. If you use stamps, again, it's very, very rare that anyone mails anything, unless you're, like you said, a small business where you mail out checks or whatever. I opt out on my post office and my community box for flyers. So, I don't use those flyers. They're just trash and garbage to me. So the whole thing about advertising, it's all gone on the internet anyways. So, I'm totally supportive of getting rid of all that daily personal delivery and those post offices, closing the ones that aren't in use. You mentioned that it's $1.5 billion losing every while. That's just like the guy said, unsustainable. Our government's so far in the hole, we're never going to get out unless we make some drastic changes. And if you and me couldn't support, by paycheck by paycheck, why should we be funding that?
Of course, sir. Thank you, Brad. Let's go to Linda. It's in southern Alberta. Hello, Linda.
Hello.
Hi, Linda.
Hello.
What do you want to talk about?
Yes. Well, we lost our rural post office over 4 years ago. And we have lock boxes or boxes that we have to walk to. Like I have to walk a block and a half or whatever. And we've been doing that for over 4 years now. And our mail comes, well, we get mail 5 days a week, but it's more like 3 days a week that we actually get mail. So yeah, I'm not in favor of them continuing the way they are. I mean, if I want to go to get a parcel or whatever, I have to go to the post office that's 25 kilometers away anyway. And we've been doing that for years already.
Do you feel as though when the post office in your area closed that you lost anything, like a gathering place or a community hub or anything like that? Or
well, we did when it was connected with the store. Well, even after that a little bit, because some people would just go in and wait and chat or whatever and stuff. But we kind of lost, we lost that community thing, but we've had to pick it up someplace else. Like we've come to have this coffee thing at the community hall on Fridays or something. So we've had to replace it with something else, but our town just kind of died anyway. So, and now we still have what they call rural route mail. And I don't believe in that either. I said, these farmers that just drive down the road to the end of their driveway to get their mail, they're coming into town anyway.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I don't, And my only other point is, because you're talking about the budget guy there too, and we've had talks about Governor General's reports.
Auditor General's reports,
Auditor. I don't know why they haven't been more mandatory. Like when they give you a scathing report, you should have to come back with something right away, as opposed to, because I've read some of it and it's like they give recommendations. But to me, I think there has to be like taxpayer something to say that taxpayers aren't happy with the way you're spending their money and you've got to stop.
Okay, so if the Auditor General makes a recommendation, you think by statute, then the government should be obligated to follow
and
through
if
on
they
that
don't,
the auditor's recommendation.
yeah, and if they're not adhering to that, it's basically okay. You're done. Like
Okay,
that's
all right.
to me that's kind of the thing I would think would be more than them being able to just spend.
Okay, got to go, Linda. Thank you for your call. But just like that, we're off and running on the Friday Free-for-All Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Rick in Dartmouth on the Friday Free-for-All Talkback. Rick, what's on your mind?
Hey, Rob. Look, if it wasn't so sad, I guess it'd be funny with Canada Post. If you were a person who still had home delivery, I can tell you from a person who used to have home delivery that it just basically increased a little bit of a walk up to the community box. You might even meet someone there you never met before, a neighbor, and anyway, it's the least obtrusive thing you can imagine. It's absolutely crazy that they would walk out. I know that's only part of the deal, but it seems insane to me. I had an idea while I was staying on hold. Why don't you give mail delivery to Amazon? I mean, are they good at delivering stuff? I don't know, man. I call or I send a message to Amazon, and geez. Jeff Bezos shows right up at my door. I mean, I know he's dead, but
No. But I mean, you're right. Like, I live in a pretty rural area. I'm not far from a big city, but I'm like an hour and a half outside of any big city. I ordered something like just a little electronic thing a couple of weeks ago from Amazon. It was here the next day. The next day it was here.
I don't know how they do it, but they do it. So
neither do
anyway,
I. Like right to my door, I'd like not to the post office in the village here, like right to my door.
So I have an idea, all right, and it's based on kind of that, is if you want mail delivery to your house, perhaps it could be a subscription service.
Sure.
Where you pay a monthly fee, and that fee, would be, obviously, you'd have to cover the cost of the service.
Yeah, service fee. Imagine that, a service fee.
One thing they could do. And
of course.
Anyway, I don't think people realize how crazy this is for the way it's gone. And the power of the postal union is, I guess, over the top, really. They could shut down. I mean,
well, I think it's waning now. It's not nearly as powerful as it used to be. Yeah.
What I was going to say was that in Nova Scotia, we have various government programs, and people get their aid money from there's a home heating rebate coming back to people who are in the proper financial situation for $400, and some people, mainly I think older people, get it by check. But you could also, give the government your I don't like doing that, but give the government your banking information and let them just do a direct deposit.
Of course,
so,
you never have to use the post office again. Yeah, exactly.
Really. And as far one last thing is, as far as a community, we have a beautiful post office in Dartmouth here years ago. It's now part of a large development. They saved the old building, which was built in the late 1800s. Kind of a beautiful old building, but they saved it as part of a 40-story apartment complex that's going there. But as far as being a community meeting center, I don't know about you, but I've never met my community in this particular neck of the woods. The post offices are all at Shoppers Drug Mart.
Okay, Rick. All right. Thank you. All right. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye. All right. I have to stop for the latest breaking news and then more of your calls Ian Lee's also going to join us. I mean, Ian Lee knows the workings of the post office, the professor from Carleton University, like the back of his hand. He wrote his PhD thesis about it, for crying out loud. So get a few words from him as well on this latest development. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Just going to squeeze in Professor Ian Lee from the Sprott School of Business at Carleton University, who has been following the issues at Canada Post for decades, and I mean decades. I'm not going to keep you long, Professor. Thanks for jumping on with me today.
Hello.
Yeah, hi, Professor Lee. So what do you think about the news from the government about Canada Post?
Rob, this is, first off, it's long overdue. It should have been done 10 years ago, literally, when Mr. Trudeau was elected. I submitted my report at the time to the Macdonald-Laurier Institute, based exclusively on the data in the audited annual reports, and I had a whole bunch of recommendations for radical surgery, including, guess what, ending home delivery to the 25% of the people, the Canadians that live in the most privileged neighborhoods like the Glebe and Rockcliffe and Outremont, Montreal, and all these privileged neighborhoods are still getting home delivery when 75% of Canadians are not. And I argued they should have ended home delivery. I said they should have ended 5-day-a-week, 52-week-a-year delivery to 17, 18 million addresses. So I proposed for franchising all the post offices and turning them into franchises at Shoppers Drug Mart, et cetera. Okay, what they did today is a step in the right direction. So anybody who thinks, okay, we're all done now. No. This is not the end of the end. This is the beginning of the beginning of radical transformation to save the post office. And I use the word save the post office. And so this is going to buy time. Anyone who thinks that all these cuts are going to make young people write letters, they're naive and they don't understand what young people, how they think. All these cuts today, and they could be $1 billion or more. They said $400 million, but depending on how aggressively they implement the cuts, it could generate $1 billion or more, which they need because they're losing $1 billion a year. So this is buying time. It's not bringing letter writing back to the post office. It's not going to bring letters back to the post office, their historic core business. It's going to give them some time to refocus and become competitive in parcels, which they most certainly are not now. And at the end of the day, it'll be a much smaller post office, not 65,000 people, but maybe 25,000 people. So there are large layoffs to come. The government did kind of sugarcoat or gloss over that. 75% of all their revenues of their expenses annually are wages. The only way you can downsize a company like this, where you have so much in wages, is to get rid of headcount. And the headcount is far too large. So there's going to be large numbers of layoffs, and they will have to be compensated generously with severance pay, just like Chrétien did in 2015. But they're going to have to restructure, or they will die.
Yeah, you mean Chrétien in 95, not 2015.
Sorry,
very quickly, just one more thing, and then I'll let you go. I know your phone is ringing off the hook. What do you think about them going on strike?
I wanted to get this out because this is very important what I'm going to say, not because I'm saying it, but because it's the facts. Most strikes in Canada or anywhere are the union striking against the management representing the company. And so people say, oh, they're on strike against Canada Post management. No, they are not. Canada Post is not making the decisions. Who's making the decisions? The regulator, the banker, and the owner. It's called the Government of Canada. So what you have now, I'm not predicting where it's going. I'm not slamming Cup W. They are on strike against a public policy decision or decisions of the Government of Canada. The last time I saw that was in 1985 when the PAFCO air traffic controllers defied the order of the Government of the United States, and Ronald Reagan and the Congress passed laws that posed enormous fines on them, and they bankrupted PAFCO, and they fired all the workers. The time before that was Margaret Thatcher and the coal miners, who went on strike against the Government of England, the Government of the United Kingdom. They are striking not against Canada Post, who are just sitting there doing what they're told to do by the government. They're striking against a series of public policy decisions of the Government of Canada. I am not predicting where it's going to go. I am not suggesting Carney is Ronald Reagan or Margaret Thatcher. I'm just putting the facts out there. They are not striking against Canada Post management. They're striking against a series of public policy decisions announced yesterday, one of which is we are not going to subsidize Canada Post anymore indefinitely into the future with multi-billion-dollar subsidies. This is what they're striking against. Where this is going to go, I don't know, but I think it's going to get ugly. And ultimately, I think it has to be resolved by Parliament, not the executive fiat announcement of one cabinet minister and the Prime Minister. It has to be debated in Parliament, and it's going to get very, very controversial and very hot.
Okay. Thank you. We'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye. Yeah. Ian Lee from the Sprott School of Business, professor there in the MBA program. Okay. Afif. Thanks for waiting, Afif. And Waterloo, you're up next. You got a tough act to follow there. Hi, Afif.
Hey, Rob. Yeah, I understand that. And for me, I was like, hey, forgive me. What I was wondering is like, I was like, when I looked at this whole entire Canada Post strike thing, I was like, why are they striking for that exact reason? Because I mean, for us, for me, I've always had a community mailbox. It's not that far away from me. It's like about a few feet away, walking wise. So, but then I was like, what the heck? Why are they doing this? But I don't understand why they're doing that. And you're right. They should, if they want to go on strike, they should go on strike and wait there forever and then hope they can get something. But they're never going to get anything.
Okay. All right, Afif. Thank you. Up next, after Afif, we've got Joe in Halifax. Hello, Joe.
Oh, thanks a lot, Rob. I've got to follow Ian Lee, who I think he's all that. He's a very sharp guy and very direct. But I don't agree with everything he said. But most of what he said is correct. The post office, there's the four entities that are going to lose in this in different ways are the union, the government, and of course the workers and the post office. But the answer to this problem, I'm just kind of paraphrasing what Ian Lee already said. The answer to all this is somewhere in all these extreme, and I mean extreme opinions, most of which aren't valid, they're extreme, and most people don't have enough information to make real intelligent decisions. Mr. Lee does, or Professor Lee, excuse me. And this should have been started about 10, 15 years ago, very slowly and eventually, and very gradual, and it would have been a lot easier to take. But what you're doing now is you're threatening people who are making their day-to-day livelihood in this job and threatening to just pull the rug out from under them, which is an absolute asinine thing for the minister to do. So I just think the answers are there, and I think scaling back is the most acceptable solution. No one's going to be a big winner. Some are going to be a loser, some more than others, but I think that's the most sensible thing to do is start scaling it back. So that's my opinion.
All right. Thank you for sharing it, and keep those calls coming today on the Friday Free for All Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Keith is up next on Talkback. Hi, Keith. What's on your mind today?
Just, I guess, carrying on with the Canada Post thing. The one question I've got is my understanding, and I could be incorrect on this. Maybe you can educate me on it. Is that last year when they went back to work, they basically went to work without getting any of the concessions that they went on strike for in the first place. Am I right on that, or have I got that wrong?
Every communication that I have received from Cup W and Canada Post would indicate, and the old line is, the two sides remain far apart.
Okay, so basically they're on strike for the same reason as they went on strike last year. It really has less to do with them, cutting out the mailboxes as it's a straw that broke the camel's back sort of situation yet again. So that's one thing to consider. Another thing to consider is that, we're talking about, 60,000 odd workers, in the Postal Service that require a bailout. Well, Bombardier, gets regular bailouts and employ a couple of thousand.
at the risk of, whataboutism here, we bail out Air Canada, we bail out, banks and auto manufacturers and everybody else, not to mention, we send billions of dollars overseas for, sometimes some reckless expenditures. I mean, excluding the Ukraine thing, which anybody can have their own stance on, but I mean, we fund an awful lot of stuff in other countries that cost far more than the Postal Service. So while I'm not 100% against removing the door-to-door service, because I get it, the community mailboxes save a pile of money. I happen to have door service and I quite enjoy it, but at the same time, I have had the mailbox before, and it's not the worst thing in the world to contend with. So, saving half a billion a year doing that makes, a good amount of economic sense. However, the idea that, postal workers in general are overpaid is just an incorrect assumption that most people will make.
I'm not saying they're overpaid. I'm not saying they're overpaid. I'm saying there are too many of them. I don't know where you work, but I've only... let me finish. True. Let me finish, please. Yep, please let me finish. Okay? I let you have your say. Let me have my say.
No,
where I work, and I've worked for several large organizations with tens of thousands of employees. I work for one right now. I can tell you if business was down 70%, there would be an impact on payroll. The business at this corporation has collapsed to such an extent that you and I are putting money into this place to keep this place open, and not a single person has lost their job. Do you think that that is right?
Yes and no. Yes and no.
Yes and no? What do you mean? What's the yes?
Okay, well...
What's the no?
To maintain the service, which is considered to be an essential service, at least for some, less so than it used to be in the past because the electronic world has overtaken a lot of their business. That's true. So, but the thing is you're still distributing to the same amount of places the same number of days a week, and there's a certain amount of infrastructure required to make that happen. So, I mean, the answer could be charging more for the mail, for the postage itself. That would be a possibility.
Sure. Yeah.
If removing the postal delivery, the door-to-door delivery, forces some people into early retirement, then that makes sense. Not replacing employees as they get out, but out and out dumping 20,000 people. That puts might be a little bit hard for a union to accept. So I sort of understand it from that standpoint. Like, I'm not saying I agree with it. I understand.
Okay.
So
I gotta go. Thank you. I've got to run. My phone lines are jammed here. I actually gave you more time than Ian Lee got. Let's go to who we got next. Mary in Central Alberta. Mary. Hi, Mary.
Hello. Hi there.
Hi, Mary.
How you doing?
Very good,
Hi.
Mary. Thank you.
I just want to tell you I agree with what Dr. Lee said. However, they probably should have started 10 years ago with the attrition factor. So when you go through restructuring, I worked for a large corporation for 35 years. I just retired, and when there were restructurings going on, it was done a lot by attrition, so it's less hurtful to the workforce or the people that are potentially losing their jobs. So there's good, there's, like you said, you can't go back now, but start now, and maybe in 10 years, you will be to the numbers you want to be, or in 5 years, maybe cut it back. My other point I was calling about today, though, Rob, is I am driving the QE2 this morning from Edmonton to Calgary, and I have not seen one police officer on this highway. People are texting and driving. It's actually been quite a dangerous drive, I find, this morning. But anyway, I just wanted to make that point. Be careful on the highways, and have a great day.
Everybody be safe. Thank you. Yeah, good call. Thank you, Mary. We'll get right back to your calls coming up. Friday Free for All Talk back here. Like Mary, we could talk about Canada Post. I mean, that's the biggest news story in the country. It's not the only thing that's going on, of course. If you have something else on your mind, you raise it here. We'll roll with it. That's what we do on Fridays. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Emerson up next on the Friday Free for All Talkback. Hi, Emerson.
Hi, thank you for taking my call. Always nice to talk to you. Rob, I want to talk about the 6-year-old Darius McDougall in the Crow's Nest Pass that's disappeared almost 6 days ago. I know the RCMP are saying that they still believe they're going to find him alive. They say they have no reason to believe that there's foul play. But what's really suspicious is at first they said that he was walking with siblings. Now they're saying they weren't actually siblings. They were just members of a family. The thing I have a hard time with is how can this autistic child outrun all these people to get away from them? And he just disappeared into thin air. And on top of that, the police are saying, we don't want the public's assistance because they may interfere with evidence. I just kind of think after 6 days, a small child in those woods, would he not be in danger of some wildlife maybe getting him, or he could have been into the water? What's your thought on the way that this has been handled? It just seems to me that I think the police know something they're not really being transparent about because they keep saying.
Well, I'm sure maybe, that's usually the case. That's usually the case that the police would know more than whatever they would share with the public. There is nothing unusual there.
Right.
But I mean, what have they done wrong? They've done ground teams. They've done, used the RCMP air services. They've had drones. They've had search dogs. What more do you think should be done?
Well, no, I'm saying at this point, after 6 days, I'm just wondering if there's more people involved, they might be able to cover more area. I know what you're saying. They have all these helicopters, drones. I'm just thinking now at 6 days, it's almost a week here. What do we have to lose by allowing the public to now come into the picture? I get that they don't want to have anything go wrong, but, we're talking about a 6-year-old child. I mean, I don't know if I could survive in the woods with no food, no water at this point, so let alone an autistic child. So I don't know. I'm getting a little bit too passionate. I feel for the kid. Maybe. I feel for the family. Yeah. And I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that maybe divine intervention somehow, somewhere, he's hiding under a tree.
There you go. There you go.
And let's hope. I just want to say thank you again for taking my call. God bless you and
anytime.
Have a beautiful weekend. Thank
you too. Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Yeah, Emerson. Bye-bye. Greg is up next. I believe it's Black Falls. Hello, Greg.
Hey, brother, what a pleasure to be talking with you in Canada.
Thank you so much.
I love your show.
Thank you. Very kind.
God bless Darius and his family in this time of turmoil. That's just horrible. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Canada Post. So if Canada Post management runs anything like our Liberal government, I guess, what do you expect? Those people out there are real people. I guess we can't forget about that are working. And our Liberal government is mismanaging our budget so bad. Their audits are horrible. And so the thing is, what do you think is going to happen to Canada Post?
Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, because we're really tight on time. I get it that they're real people. Okay, I've been let go twice. It sucks. Okay, they're real people, but are they working in the real world? That's what I want to know.
Oh, I agree with you, my friend. I totally agree. But don't take your eyes off the target. The Liberal government are the ones that are making the mess, not the Canada Post employees. Thank you. God bless you. Have a super day.
Thank you. Bye-bye. That's hour number 1.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to hour number 2 of the Friday Free for All Talkback. Canada Post has been the big story for callers to talk back today so far. But if you have something else you want to raise, by all means, raise it. It wasn't, that's not the only big story. I mean, one of the big stories on Parliament Hill this week involved the Public Safety Minister, Gary and Ann DeSangary, and the Liberals' gun buyback program. Tried to get people into that on Monday when all this was breaking. Didn't have many takers at the time, but it's going to cost $742 million. Basically a half a year's operation of Canada Post. $742 million. And there's the minister, and he's caught on tape. And he's having a chat with a tenant of his who owns some of these firearms, and he's kind of there to break the news to him. And during that conversation, the public safety minister of Canada admits people who own firearms legally are not the problem in Canada. He knows that. He knows he's been stuck with this dog's breakfast of a program, and he admits to the guy the only reason they're doing it is because it's popular in Quebec. He also said, because the guy was worried, well, if I don't comply, I could end up in jail. The minister says, well, if it comes to that, I don't think it'll come to that. I'll bail you out. And on the secret recording, the guy sounds kind of peeved because he doesn't think he's going to get nearly enough money from this buyback program to recover what he spent on these firearms. And the minister says, well, I'll give you some money. I make up the difference. I'll make good with you. Like, just totally unethical behavior from a minister of the crown. I don't know if you have any comments on that. And just one more. I'm just throwing this out here. Have you been following the story about the ostriches? We haven't talked about this week, the ostriches. I mean, what do you think about that story if you're following it? I've been following it off and on. It kind of took a national turn this week because the Supreme Court of Canada got involved. At least one First Nation is involved. But you have this small farm, Edgewood, BC, very rural area, British Columbia, 400 ostriches at the Universal Ostrich Farm. And last December, the farm lost 69 ostriches to a lethal strain of avian flu. So the CFIA, Canadian Food Inspection Agency, ordered a full cull because they have what's called this stamping out policy. But the farmers, as maybe you've heard, have been battling the cull in court and all over social media, and they say these birds are healthy and they're quite likely immune now, and scientifically they're valuable. They should be studied and not culled. If you're following that story and have an opinion, gosh, I'd love to hear it today. Let's go to Dallas, though, and get hour number 2 underway with phone calls. Dallas. Hi, Dallas.
Yes, sir. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Very good, Dallas.
Good.
What's on your mind?
Well, the last couple of callers kind of took me off course, but I will say about that little autistic child in Alberta there, it's kind of the same scenario as what happened to the 2 children in Nova Scotia, of which they still have not solved. It's oddities at best. As far as the ostrich farm thing, I really haven't been following that, but I might have to look into it.
Yeah, you might want to.
My main call was clearly, like everybody else, about Canada Post. And
what do you think about it?
I'm going to tell you. I worked in the trade union system for a good many years. I don't anymore. I really don't have any use for unions anymore, quite honestly, because of it. But what the Canada Post folks don't understand, not the Canada Post folks, W, let me rephrase that.
Like the union leadership, you mean?
Yeah. What they don't understand is that when you're in collective bargaining, and this has been going on for 2 years, which is unfathomable to me. But anyway, when you're in collective bargaining and you make a set of demands, that's the demands you put on the table. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but the last time talks broke off and the talks actually got back on, did the union not come back, even though nothing else was resolved? Did the union not come back with yet a new set of demands?
Oh, I'd have to go back and look through my notes. I can't remember. It's been such a saga, as you say. This has been going on for
I know.
2 years, right?
I can assure you that if you go back and look, that was the case. And no, it doesn't work that way, people. And as far as the community mailboxes, I got no problem with that. I wouldn't have to go to the thing for less than once a month because all I get is my hydro bill, water bill, and gas bill. Neither of three of which I want.
Right. You could probably sign up and get them all online anyway. Yeah. Okay. All right, Dallas. Thank you. Gotcha, Dallas. Let's go to Mike is in Calgary. Hi, Mike. Tom in Cambridge. Let's go to Tom. Hi there, Tom.
Hi, Rob. How are you?
Very good, Tom.
Well, I think the safety minister, they should fire him. He should resign on his own, but they should fire him. I mean, all that stuff. You can't get a post like that and then you go all underneath. So I don't know who taped him, but he should. So that's my thing. The sooner the better because they're going to milk it. And, you know, like he looks pretty bad when he's defending it. I don't know where it came from, but they shouldn't spend all that money on it. They should do it like on the border. This is where the guns are coming. But, I mean, what he said looks pretty bad for a minister.
Yeah, I would say so. I would say so.
Yeah.
Okay, Tom. Yeah. Glad we could fit you in today. We're going to run 1-833-668-2577. Just like that. Hour number 2 is underway on the Friday Free-for-All Talkback. Pick a topic, start a conversation. We'll be listening in and paying attention. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
All right, Robert in Calgary is up next on the Friday Free-for-All Talkback. Hi, Robert.
Hello. Again, Canada Post.
Canada Post, okay.
When you opened the subject, you didn't open it, but you talked about Canada Post early at the beginning of this.
Yeah.
You referred to them as being mad. I have to question, are you using the definition of mad as angry or the definition of mad as insane? I'm sure you meant angry.
Maybe a little bit of column A, a little bit from column B now that you mention it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I feel that the mad as insane side is probably coming from the union. The mad as in angry is coming from the workers, and I'm not quite sure who they're mad at. And it may, in fact, be the union. I really don't know.
Yeah,
but I think
they're the ones out walking picket lines today. They're the ones out walking picket lines today.
They're the only ones that can walk it, and the union says they have to. But anyways, the idea that we can continue delivering mail 5 days a week, that would be insane. I mean, if they really believe that should be maintained, I would define that as the insane side.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the mailboxes, what we called super mailboxes, I'm not sure what the community mailboxes.
Community mailbox,
yeah. I don't think they have any choice on that one either. They can't keep doing door to door. I mean, I keep a post box near downtown Calgary. I visited anywhere from once a month to once every 6 weeks. I was there this week. There was, I think, 6 pieces of mail in it, and I hadn't visited in 6 weeks.
Right.
And none of them were critical.
Right.
You know, it's just something has to change. And if they think they can maintain the status quo, then they are mad as in insane. What I'd like to see happen is they keep something going with the rural, because there's no package delivery by the major courier companies to rural Canada.
No, that's not true. I live in rural Canada. I mentioned this to a previous caller. You know, I bought something from Amazon, a few weeks ago. Nothing fancy. It was a few, I can't even remember, like a charger or something like that. It was here the next day, delivered right to my door.
By who?
By a contract courier, by a contractor.
Was it? Because I know that here in Alberta, a lot of there are places rural can mean truly rural. You're not near any town. And I'm pretty sure they don't get that service.
No, I don't know. I do. I'm an hour and a half outside the city. I'm an hour and a half outside the city, sir.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's new to me because I haven't heard of that happening in Alberta. Yeah. But
if I brought you here and I you would say, yeah, you live in a rural area.
Yeah. I would
believe me.
What I would like to see happen, and just roll Canada Post back into the government. It was in 1981 that Canada Post was still part of the government proper, and it was rolled into a Crown corporation.
Well,
and
whatever the case might be, I mean, it's very clear now the management is taking its marching orders from the government. I'm going to move along, though, Robert. I thank you for your call. Mad or mad? I like that. Nathan, I believe, is next. We have Nathan. Paul in Cambridge. Is Paul in Cambridge there?
I am here.
Yeah, go ahead, Paul. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, 2 points I'd like to make. First off, this ostrich thing, they keep calling it a cull. Let's call it what it is. It's going to be a slaughter of them. The government has done this on various different occasions. Pardon me. They call it a cull. They did the same thing on the islands out in BC to get rid of a particular type of deer. In that case, they brought in Americans with what the heck did they?
That's right, sniper rifle. Yeah, they had
rifles.
sniper rifles, and they were firing at them from helicopters.
Helicopters, yeah.
That's
you know,
right. Yeah.
We can't have an AR rifle, but we can hire Americans to slaughter all these deer. Maybe they can hire the same guys to slaughter, not cull, slaughter. Call it what it is. These ostriches. The ostriches are healthy.
Okay. Well, we don't know if they're healthy. We don't know because CFIA refuses to even test them. They say, no. We have a stamp out policy. There's no negotiation here. I guess I'm asking, do we save and study or do we just stamp out? What should happen to the ostriches?
Yeah, well, first off, they're not exhibiting any signs of illness. They're all up and running around, except for being terrorized by certain government agencies. And I hear there's more RCMP out there than there is looking for that young boy that's lost.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but
that's just what I hear.
Just because they're not, we don't know. We don't know if they still have this, strain of avian flu. Maybe they should be studied. Maybe. So,
well,
this is not the policy.
I'm sure I've got some sort of antibodies for COVID now. But, anyways, the other point I wanted to make was our fearless public safety minister. He's just practicing to be the leader of the Liberal Party, and he's practicing talking out of both sides of his mouth. He's following in Carney's footsteps, saying one thing in Quebec and one thing out west. Pipelines, yes. Pipelines, no. Pipelines, maybe. Pipelines, sure. The
all right, I got you.
Minister,
I got you. Thank you. Yeah, I got you. Thank you. I'm glad. I figure you might call today if we talked about that gun buyback program. What a mess that is for the Liberals. What a mess that was for them this week on Parliament Hill. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
It sure is. Friday free-for-all Talkback home stretch for us. Karen in Calgary. Are you with me, Karen?
I'm with you, Rob.
All right. What's on your mind?
You're going to love this. I drove by the big Canada Post building in the Northeast. There was 2 picketers. I opened my window and laughed out loud. Guess what I got back? The one-finger salute.
I'm sure you did. Maybe it was deserved. If you're going to laugh at them. Yeah, you shouldn't be laughing at people. I mean, I wouldn't condone that, but...
Well, you know what, Rob? I don't condone losing my mail service either.
Okay,
what am I
fair
supposed
enough.
to do as a small business?
Okay. Yeah,
They're
as I've
laughing
said,
at me.
Okay. Well, they're using you as leverage, I guess you could say, Karen, right?
Yeah. The other thing I was wondering, Do they have community mailboxes in the East? Like in Eastern
sure.
Canada? Because
sure.
they stopped it right when it was halfway through Calgary.
Yeah, well, I mean...
Some people in Calgary have them and some don't. I just wondered if it was East not having it.
They're all across the country. They're all across the country. Yeah.
But not in every neighborhood.
Not in every neighborhood, no. My father lives in Atlantic Canada. He has a community mailbox, and he's not even in a rural area. He's in small town Canada, but he's in a town of 8,000 or 9,000 people that had a post office, but the post office is closed and covered in graffiti now. So
best thing that ever happened to me was a community mailbox, because now I'm not reliant on them for my mail, other than to deliver it to a box.
Okay.
Yeah. The other thing is fire Gary. Fire Gary.
Well, he really stepped in it, I'll tell you what, this week. But they're still going ahead with it. This is what I don't understand. They're still going ahead with it. In fact, Karen, thank you for your call. I want to play a couple of clips here. Let's play a couple of clips. Because Pierre Poilievre and Mark Carney, they really went at it this week on Wednesday in the House of Commons over this gun buyback program. I've said this before. I don't own guns. I've never owned any guns. I've only ever fired one gun in my life, and it was like 40 years ago. I was out in the woods with a couple of friends of mine and a couple of my friends. They used to go hunting all the time with their fathers, so they had the gun out there. It was the only time I ever shot it. Like, I don't know, might have been 14 or something at the time. Politicians, you know, they have a tendency to stretch the truth, but I want to know which one is telling the version that's closer to the truth. Pierre Poilievre or Mark Carney. Let's play TB Guns Debate 1 there, Curtis. So let's play that first one there.
The gun registry, what the government is doing with the gun registry is putting in place a much more efficient way, an efficient way for Canadians to voluntarily return prohibited firearms.
He calls it the gun registry. He calls it the gun registry. It's not a gun registry. That's the last boondoggle from the Liberals on firearms. Gun registry. This is a gun buyback. Okay, pick it up from there.
Prohibited firearms, voluntarily return prohibited firearms for fair compensation. This government is going to do it right.
Okay. So that's Prime Minister Carney. Thank you. He keeps saying the program is voluntary. Is this a voluntary program? Is that your understanding? It's not my understanding. Is it your understanding? Now, Pierre Poilievre says we're going after gopher guns, and the Prime Minister claims that hunters, duck hunters, and farmers use AR-15s to go duck hunting and use them on the farm. Roll the tape on that, please.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. But his own Minister of Public Safety says this government is doing it wrong. He was caught on tape saying the program won't work, and yet they are going to rip $750 million away from our border and police services to harass duck hunters and farmers by banning the firearms they use. This approach has led to a 130% increase in gun crime under the Liberals' watch. The police say they won't implement it. The minister says it's a bad idea, but they're only doing it for political reasons. Why is the Prime Minister putting lives at risk for politics?
Yeah, play the other clip there.
Farmers, duck hunters using AR-15s to hunt. I don't see that. I don't see that in my great province of Alberta. I also know that what the Minister of Public Safety and this government are doing is tightening the border. Bill C2, will the opposition stand up and support the tightening of the border?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. And there, the Prime Minister just admitted that he doesn't even know what his gun ban applies to. That's right. For example, this gun ban applies to 10 and 12 gauge shotguns, which are used by the great people of Alberta and all Canadians for duck hunting. It applies to 70 22 caliber firearms that are used by almost every farmer to go after gophers. Will the Prime Minister stop wasting money banning gopher guns, read his briefing notes so that he knows what he's talking about, and fire that incompetent minister?
Yeah, I just wanted to get that out there. I mean, the Prime Minister said, and again, I don't know much about guns. He says hunters and farmers don't need AR-15s for hunting or killing pests on the farm. Do hunters and farmers use firearms like AR-15s, or is this the liberal scaremonger? What's going on here? I don't know. Let's take Linda's call very quickly here. Linda. Hi, Linda.
Hello. I'm
Hi,
from
Linda.
Rockview County, and the ostrich farm owners, before they were in Edgewood, were my neighbors in Alberta.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes. And the SPCA were involved with them numerous times. And
Yeah.
I don't agree that the ostriches should be put to death if they are unhealthy. But I also don't think everybody should be on board with everything that that family farm is saying.
Why is that?
So, because those birds, they have said this, have been used for testing for other things, and I don't think that they are telling the whole truth of what their farm is for.
Oh, okay. Okay.
As well, we're rural. We get our packages delivered by UPS and FedEx right to our door.
And you're rural, you said, right? Rural.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
From Calgary. And
Okay.
quickly, we don't use AR-15s to kill gophers.
You don't use AR-15s to kill gophers. Okay. Okay. But Pierre Poilievre says they're coming after your gopher guns. Is that true?
Don't want to go for guns.
Okay. Do you think you're going to be
yeah.
impacted by that, though? Are you going to be impacted by it? Are you going to have firearms that you're going to have to turn in for compensation?
Not if it's AR-15. No.
You don't think you'll be impacted by it? Okay. All right. Thank you. Be right back with more of your calls on Talkback Friday Free-for-All on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Quasm in Calgary up next on Talkback. Hi, Quasm.
Hi, Rob. I'm a first-time caller, and I wanted to make a point regarding the Canada Post scenario.
Sure.
I'm a small business operator, and I was living in China for a couple of years, and I was also doing business there. Now, once I see the scenario that Canada Post is now trying, and people are supporting the boxes deliveries, not the home deliveries, so a strange thing, because the people and even the world, most of countries are advancing their delivery services. Rather, we are just bringing back to 70s and 80s. I do understand that for the urban situations, it's fine because we can do that. The home deliveries, the door-to-door deliveries is fine. But I think for the other cases like the faraway places, and that makes sense. But for the cities, I'm living in Calgary City, and I think it will hurt a lot of small businesses. So maybe the thing is there's a big corruption going on, or I don't know how this is happening. The government should have a couple of more competitors in order to overcome this problem, and to create the competition will solve this problem maybe. So I think it's a bad idea to go for the mailboxes rather than home delivery. Everybody is advancing in this field, and we are going back.
Okay. Well, I guess the question is, do you need, a unionized employee with a defined benefit pension plan making probably, I don't know, double the minimum wage in order to, and a truck running on gasoline. Yeah. Do you need all of that to deliver the door-to-door delivery, home delivery of the mail? 5 days a week.
I think the problem is actually there are services, there are postal services and agencies, they can do it. Why not Canada Post? So the Canada Post already incentivized a lot, and why not they can deliver home to home?
And I guess another opinion I would have is, let's say are you a business owner, sir? Are you a business owner?
Yeah. Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
If business
And
dropped,
I'm dealing in
if I could,
e-commerce.
sir, if I could.
Yeah.
If your sales went down
Go ahead.
70%, you'd have some decisions you would have to make, right?
Yes, exactly.
If your revenue was cut
Yeah.
by 70%, well, that's what's happened at Canada Post. Yeah, Canada Post then had 60,000 employees, and it has 60,000 employees now, but its revenue is down 70%. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
You wouldn't run your business like
I
that.
don't know how. I don't know. I think they are charging enough. It's not the prices, as you said in your introductory introduction on this topic, and I totally understand. But they are not charging less. They are not that fast. I don't know how they can't make profit with that.
Okay, thank you. Let's go. Who do we have up? Wayne, I believe, is up next. Hi, Wayne.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you just fine, Wayne. What's your opinion?
Hello?
Go
Hi,
ahead,
can
Wayne.
you hear me?
You're on the air. Yeah, I hear you just fine, Wayne.
I might have I may have a different perspective on the Canada Post.
Okay.
Go ahead. I worked for Canada Post. I worked for Canada Post for 3 months over the winter of 2022. And I was shocked at what was going on around me. I'd go in and I would sort my mail, and there were employees all around me sorting their mail first thing in the morning. And there was generally always somebody or multiple people bitching about Canada Post, how terrible they had it, and how bad government was, and how bad their bosses were. And it is a very, very militant group of people. They're hard workers. I would never take that away from a Canada Post employee, and I know because I did the work for 3 months. But they are not always hearing the story, and I will prove this to me was I've developed a friendship with our postal carrier, and she knew that I had worked for a short time with Canada Post. And she said to me, "Oh, Wayne, you're so lucky you're not working there anymore. It's a terrible work environment, and we, as workers, do not believe that the company isn't making any money. We do not believe for a moment."
Yeah, denial.
They really do not understand the workings of a business, and she shocked me. I always thought her to be very intelligent and well versed and well read, and she's saying, "Well, no, they're lying to us. They're not spending $10 million a day. They're not, so far in the hole that they cannot support us." They don't see it, Rob.
Yeah, it could be a corporate culture thing then, a corporate culture issue, by the sounds of it, an entrenched, unionized, coddled corporate culture.
Well, there's one other thing that I don't think most Canadians realize, and I was shocked, and you can prove this by going on to the careers website of the Post. Management itself is in a union, and there are 2 levels of management, and both are parts of different unions. So you've got one union managing another union who's managing the postal workers. I don't think most Canadians realize that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Very informative. Be right back with a few more calls before we call it quits for Talkback this week. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Let's get to Jody up next on the Friday Free for All Talkback. Hi, Jody.
Hey, Rob. I just wanted to talk about something not serious today for a change.
Sure.
I don't want to talk about the corrupt Liberal government, but anyway, the Blue Jays. I think that they should start playing more small ball.
What do you mean by that?
Okay, instead of going for the long ball, like the home run every time, like I noticed, every guy that goes up bat, man, they're trying to get the home run. Like like back in the 80s and 90s when I was growing up, the National League they had these teams like St. Louis and Chicago Cubs, and these guys, they would play small ball. They would bunt a lot. They would sacrifice players over, whatever. Like they would manufacture runs, and they would win games. And like I find the Blue Jays that's all they go for the long ball too much, man. Like they have to start playing a different style of baseball. And I mean, if they want to be more successful, because they're not going to win every game with home runs.
Yeah, and they've had a terrible slump. I mean, the bats finally came to life yesterday, but my gosh, they've been in a terrible slump. I would recommend one more, Chains. I wouldn't pitch Max Scherzer anymore. I think he's kind of lost a step or two. And I think it was a mistake to put Lauer in the bullpen. He was having a great season as a starter for them, and he was dynamite there yesterday. I'd seriously think about going back to him. He reminds me of Jimmy Key. I don't know if you remember Jimmy Key, but he reminds me of Jimmy Key.
The old softball. But the thing is, though, you're right, Scherzer or whatever. Every game that he's pitched, he gives up like four runs the first 2 or 3 innings, like every game.
Yeah.
So it's time to take him out of the starting rotation, like when they go into the playoffs. And you're right, like maybe put in like a Lauer or somebody.
Yeah, I'm with you, Jody.
Okay,
but
weekend.
it was a good game last night. It was like when that grand slam went over the fence. It was just like the biggest sigh of relief across the Jays nation, I think. Yeah, for sure. Oh, let's try 60 seconds or less with Steve. 60 seconds or less to get the last word, Steve. Go ahead, Steve.
Hey, Rob. I'll try to do it in 60 seconds. Real quick, I'm going to send you 2 books. Hopefully you haven't read them either. I'm going to go to the station manager down here in Calgary and send it to you. Anyway, I listened to you and Northern's perspective. I have respect for both your stations or both your podcasts or broadcastings. Yesterday, they were talking about the $55 billion debt servicing payments going to $82.4 billion in 2030. That works out to $2,000 of extra taxes for every man that's working in country, man or woman working in this country in this year, and then another $3,000 in 2030. And then, of course, I go on Northern Perspective. I write them an emotional letter at 2 o'clock in the morning, and it says, please put emotion into this description of debt payment. And they came out this morning with another podcast with using the interim parliamentary budgetary officer.
Oh, yeah. I played that clip too. Yeah, isn't that something? Yeah. Got it wrong, though. That's it. That's your 60 seconds.